why wrist locks don't really work. So before any of the jiu-jitsu community start having a go saying that the gooseneck wrist lock works really effectively, it does. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about the wrist locks we see from Aikido. Grab, twist around, come out, grab, come this way, and all this, and you control the guy. And if you get it, you swing around, pull the guy, and you get the projection technique, and he goes flying. Yeah, great, fantastic. Grabs your lapel, do this, turn him and control him there. He's like, please no, and you've got him controlled. Yeah, looks great on film. You know, the talentless Steven Seagal made an entire career out of that, but it won't work in a real fight. First of all, it's very unlikely in a real fight that people are going to grab your wrist. It's not going to happen. When people grab wrists, it's usually with people they know. It's usually a domineering partner who's trying to drag their partner away. The idea of teaching a wrist lock like that for a self-defense or out there type of thing, it's kind of bizarre to me because it doesn't work. We can test it. No, it doesn't work. So you're teaching, I should say, you're teaching a technique that won't work for a situation that won't ever happen. So I know now there's going to be people out there going, oh, well, grab my wrist and I'll put it on you and we'll see if it works. This is my point. I would not grab your wrist. It's very unlikely in a real fight that anyone's going to grab hold of your wrist. You might get someone grabbing hold of your wrist if you work as a bouncer trying to draw your attention to something else. But in that situation, you've just got to come free. You can't be going wrist locks with people. The idea of I'm going to put a wrist lock on and control the guy is horseshit. You put a wrist lock on the guy. I've now taken both of my hands to tie up your one hand as I do the wrist lock. That means your other hand is free to pull me in and smack me, which is what will happen. As soon as you put your hand on, there's a good chance the guy's going to pull his hand away, get the fuck off me, or he's just going to barrel into you and headbutt you. The wrist lock where someone grabs your lapel and you twist it over, it works. The problem is, people turn the guy over so he's like bent over going, please no. From there, I'm seeing people teaching holding it there. Or they hold the wrist and they push down on the elbow and go, yes, I've got him, I can control him. That's not what that was for. As soon as you come over, you don't just sort of hold the wrist and come over like that. Hold it where it is, bring your arm right over his, so his arm's there, come right over, and you drop your weight in, the idea being that we break the arm. When you see the pitch, and if they're holding the elbow and they're controlling where the guy's going, that won't work. The guy will just simply come in and stand up under you. That was all designed to break the arm, so you get it, you break it, you are then supposed to move on. Wrist locks look very cool. As I said, Seagal made an entire career out of it. But against someone who might know what they're doing, it's not going to work. It's very unlikely if you're in a fight with someone who doesn't know what they're doing and you're in the situation, what the fuck are you going to do about it? My hands aren't going to be in front of me for you to grab. So if you grab hold of it, I can't implement that wrist lock because my hands aren't going to be here. We're both doing the whole splaying thing, trying to make ourselves look bigger. Fuck, you got a problem with me? Well, you're not going to be reaching out here to grab the wrist, are you? It's stupid. Wrist grabs tend to only happen if the two people already know each other and it's a you're coming with me, come home now, get in the car type of job. That takes on an entirely different thing, not for this video. So you're teaching something that won't work for a situation that won't ever exist. What I would say to any Aikido practitioner out there who's watching, going, no, that's all horseshit, our wrist locks work, it's working, get in touch with me. I'm not saying this as like, yeah, let's do this. I'm saying get in touch and I will come to you and we'll film it and I'll show that the nature of a real fight, wrist locks aren't going to happen because we're not grabbing wrists. People won't grab your wrist to try to control you. They will bunch their hands up, more often than not realizing how to make a proper fist, don't be all this nonsense, and they swing. So that's the most likely thing to happen. The other problem I have with them is, once the adrenaline hits, fine motor skills go right out the window. The idea that you're going to be able to grab, twist, pull around, project again. No, gross motor skills is what works. That's why you see people throwing haymakers. It's the most natural thing to do. People who train for wrist locks train wrist locks with people who are allowing them to do it. Yeah, it's up there with the thing of I throw a punch, I stand to the side and catch the wrist. Never in a million years. It's never happened. It never will happen. When people throw a punch, they don't hold it out. They go, "Oh, I'll bring it back and I'll do it again." No, it's got bish. People who don't know how to punch, as I've said, big swinging haymakers. So this idea of I'm going to catch it and blah blah, it's horseshit. If you really believe your wrist locks work, go to other schools, go to other styles and other systems, and say, how would you come at me? Look at, I'm not a fan of reality TV at all, but on video sharing websites, you can find CCTV footage and mobile phone footage of people who have filmed massive fights. These are the greatest educational tool we have because we can show other people who've never been there, this is what a real fight looks like. So when you see a whole bunch of people kicking off in a McDonald's at 2 o'clock in the morning over some fries, look at it and say, okay, how are you implementing your wrist lock there? How are you implementing your block and counter and stuff? How are you implementing what you do there? Boxing works in a large group. Boxing works really well. You just storm forward, throwing crosses and hooks. Anything gets in your way, it gets dropped. Even my beloved judo. If there's a group of them, while I'm throwing one guy, his mates are tackling me or they're punching me. It happens. So, you've got to keep this type of stuff into consideration. I'm going a little off here, but wrist locks for the most part don't work. I'm not a big fan of teaching them. I'm not a big fan of training them. I will show them at the start of demonstrations sometimes just to show how easily they are to be countered. Again, look at real fights. Look at how often wrist locks come into play and how often they stop the thing. Because if a wrist lock isn't coming into play, you go, yeah, but it's just not the right situation for a wrist lock. I would never use a wrist lock in this situation. If you find yourself saying that every single time you watch footage of a real fight, that should tip you off that the opportunity to employ a wrist lock doesn't ever come up because it's not realistic. The attack isn't realistic, therefore the defense you're training isn't going to be realistic. Someone's throwing punches at you and your immediate idea is to try and catch the punch. Well, you're going to catch it in the face, not with your hands. So that's just my view briefly on wrist locks and why I don't train them, why they don't work. They won't work against somebody who isn't letting you do it to them. So any comments, questions or suggestions, please put below. If there's something you'd like to see me cover in any of these videos, pop it down below. If I have upset anybody, that's not my intention. I've never ever gone out, set out with these videos to offend anybody or to upset anybody. But I'm speaking the truth as I see it, as I have experienced it, as the empirical evidence dictates that it is. Wrist locks don't get used in fights too often because the reality is wrist locks are not employable in the majority of fights. So again, as I've mentioned several times in this video, you're training something that won't work for a situation that doesn't exist. So stay safe, train hard, and always be vigilant.